apparent in places like Chicago's South Side. These pundits and politicians make excuses for bad behavior and refuse to honestly confront the issues that drive violent crime. Case in point, drug dealers have devastated many inner-city neighborhoods, yet the liberals scream that the justice system is unfair to black drug dealers and users.
That's an example of the kind of argument we've been hearing from conservatives in the wake of the George Zimmerman verdict. And instead of outrage over black-on-black crime, black activists and liberals like myself want to make excuses or blame society for why black people kill each other. The fact that some black people are upset that George Zimmerman wasn't convicted for killing Trayvon Martin doesn't mean that black folks aren't upset about more than 12 black people killed over the 4th of July weekend. Black people, all people, in fact, are capable of getting upset at more than one thing. And that's why today the Congressional Black Caucus hosted a national summit on violence in urban communities to upend gun violence in Chicago and other cities, which isn't anything new in the black community, we should point out. Hence the countless inner-city anti-crime initiatives, something that dates back to at least 1989, when some of the biggest rap stars got together for a song called Self-Destruction. And today, even Chicago Bulls star Derrick Rose, the biggest celebrity in the city of Chicago next to the President of the United States, addressed the reasons for the bloodshed and destructive path of so many young black men.
It all starts from poverty. I think just people just surviving and people just really just trying to get out.
But for people like Bill O'Reilly, there's a zero sum of concern here, because for him, this really isn't about his interest in helping the actual human beings being killed on Chicago's South Side. No, it's about making a point about the propensity of black people to commit violence, and then tossing them aside as violent people with little discipline who are unsupervised and prone to imitate bad behavior.
Black Americans commit homicides at a rate 10 times greater in the United States than whites and Hispanics combined. And until you address those kinds of statistics, then you're always going to have fear and you'll always have mistrust.
I think that black people are going to feel that you're stereotyping them.
I don't care. I'm dealing with reality.
Yes, reality. Well, now, O'Reilly's argument is that fear of black men is justified by the risk they pose. Well, here's some data that prompts the question, who should be more scared of whom? In 2010, according to the FBI's expanded homicide statistics, 8% of all white people murdered were murdered by black people, while 14% of all black people murdered that year were murdered by white people. But here's another way for Bill O'Reilly to think about the dangers a white person like himself faces on a day-to-day basis, and it can be scary. There are about 200 million white people in America. We make up about 63% of the population. And in 2010, 1,179 white people were killed by black people. Compare that number to the roughly 20,000 white people who died from accidental poisoning, 16,000 who died from accidental falls that year, or the 2,000 or so white people estimated who died from accidental drowning. In other words, Bill O'Reilly, you have more reason to be afraid of your own swimming pool than any young black man you see in a hoodie. Joining me at the table, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Democrat from California, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. It's great to have you here.
Very happy to be with you tonight.
The conversation that we have had out of the verdict has gone in two directions. I think there's been a conversation we've been having on this network and on the left, I think, about stereotyping, about suspicion of black men, about profiling. There's been a conversation that conservatives have been anxious to have about, quote, black-on-black crime. How do you understand those two conversations that are happening?
Well, I tell you one thing, Chris, and I'm so pleased that you're digging deeper into this, because race, first of all, has been swept under the rug for so long, and now the horrific tragedy of Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant in my district, who was tragically killed 3 years ago. These conversations are beginning, but it's really showing us, first of all, that there are some in the far right, such as Bill O'Reilly, who are using this at this point in terms of what could be a healthy discussion of race, using it to promote their own attitudes, They're very dangerous in how they're putting this forth. I mean, when you look at many studies have shown also that low socioeconomic status is the largest indicator of violence rather than race.
Right.
So they're just trying to use wedge issues to pump up, you know, the far right for their own political purposes. It's very dangerous.
I wanted to play you this clip because we were going through this this amazing movie, American History X, which came out about 10 years ago. And it stars Edward Norton, who plays a neo-Nazi, a white supremacist. And here he is at a dinner table. This was around 2000, and things like the Rodney King riots in L.A. were fresh in people's memory. And here he is at the dinner table making these kinds of arguments about statistics and what they say about certain kinds of people. Take a listen.
These people have absolutely no respect for the law at all, and certainly no concept of, like, community or civic responsibility.
Wait a minute. White people commit crimes against white people, too.
Yeah, but they're not offing each other in record numbers all over America. Look at the statistics, for Christ's sakes. It's 1 in every 3 black males is in some phase of the correctional system. Is that a coincidence, or do these people have, you know, like a racial commitment to crime?
Well, maybe it says something about prejudice in the judicial system.
Yeah, if you want to talk about criminal statistics, you might want to take a look at the social inequalities that produce them.
Yap. You know what? That's exactly what I hate. Because what you're doing, Davina, is taking one thing and calling it something else and just, you know, alleviating the responsibility that these people have for their own actions. You know, it's like saying, it's not a riot, it's rage. It's not crime, it's poverty. It's just nonsense.
These are old arguments, right? I mean, these are arguments that are trotted out a lot.
These are recycled arguments which don't get to the real root of the issue. First of all, racial profiling, disparate treatment in the criminal justice system. When you look at gun violence, we can't even get a gun violence package passed in Congress just requiring background checks.
And here's what I say to you as a mother of 2 black sons and as someone who is now in the United States Congress and been serving there for a while. What I find most frustrating is that what we have seen is incarceration go up at the same time that crime is going down. And yet the fear level is still stoked, even though what we have is objectively less murders every year, we have less crime, we are living in a safer society, and we are putting more people in prison.
You know, we have not dealt with the structural issues here in this country as it relates to institutional racism. When you look at 3 strikes, for example, in California, the majority of African American and Latino young men incarcerated 25 years to life for nonviolent offenses. When you look at mandatory minimum sentences, crack cocaine, it was 100 to 1. Now it's down, I believe, to 18 to 1. Thank goodness.
Because legislation
that the Obama administration signed. It should be 1 to 1. So you're looking at real issues around institutional racism in the criminal justice system and our education system. Every economic and social institution has this running as a thread through it.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee from the great state of California, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The second highest glass ceiling in America is about to be shattered. That is, unless Larry Summers